The big banks are beginning to pass on the latest rate hike. That's news that will surprise nobody. Those rate hikes delivered by the Reserve Bank to indebted households yesterday, sending mortgage obligations to record highs. Of course, we're now at 4.1%. Joining us live, the Agriculture Minister, Murray Watt. Murray, I know you've got an announcement a little later on in the day, but first I just want to ask you about the RBA. 12 months on, yet to slay that inflation dragon. Do you or your government accept any blame for that?
Well, good morning, Pete. Obviously, these decisions about interest rates are taken by the independent Reserve Bank, independent of government. And I think every Australian is disappointed to see this decision having been made. From the government's perspective, even the Reserve Bank governor recognised at estimates in the Senate last week that the budget that we brought down recently actually was taking pressure off inflation. With some of the actions that we're taking to make medicines cheaper, to reduce the increase that we're seeing in energy prices and a range of other measures. So we're certainly doing everything we can as a government to try to get this inflation figure down. But of course, there are global factors like the war in Ukraine, the broken supply chains that are going to take time to resolve. But we will continue to do everything we possibly can to put pressure down on interest rates and on inflation.
Right.
But ultimately, these are decisions for the Reserve Bank.
When you've got, though, an increase to the minimum wage last week that went far beyond what the RBA had hoped for, is that in itself an example of something that will work against what you or the government the RBA is trying to achieve, that is lower inflation?
No, I don't think that we should fall into the trap of blaming some of the lowest income people in the country for the problems that we're having around inflation. I think if there's anyone in the country who needs support to deal with rising cost of living, it's the lowest paid people in our country. And that wage rise that was awarded last week will assist them to do that. The causes of inflation lie well beyond that. It is primarily around the issues that we're facing as a result of that war in Ukraine, the supply chains that continue to be broken and drive up prices for everything from construction materials to everything else.
Right.
And all we can do as a government is keep trying to take that pressure off, and that's what we'll keep doing.
All right, well, it won't surprise you that Angus Taylor has said that inflation is coming from Canberra. He's pointed to fiscal policies, IR policies, energy policies. Has he got any point?
No, well, you're right. It doesn't surprise me that he would do that. But the problem for Angus Taylor is that the Reserve Bank governor himself has actually effectively said that Angus Taylor is wrong. When the Reserve Bank governor was asked about this at Senate estimates by Liberal senators last week, he said that the government's budget was actually not contributing to inflation and was in fact assisting take that pressure off. So, people can choose who they want, whether they want to believe Angus Taylor or the governor of the Reserve Bank. I think I know who I'd choose.
Right. Is a more robust agenda needed to fight inflation? Do you need to do more than what you're already doing?
Oh, look, we're obviously doing a lot, whether it, as I say, is trying to take those cost of living pressures off people, trying to bring the prices of energy down from where they would otherwise be. But of course, we've got a big productivity agenda as a government as well around investing in skills, trying to fix those supply chains. Even the announcement that we're making today, that Jim Chalmers is making today, around gradually getting rid of checks from the banking system is a productivity improving move. So they're the kind of things that we're focused on, getting more women into work through cheaper childcare. This is an unfinished agenda and we'll keep working on that. But you can be certainly assured that everything we're doing as a government is aimed at trying to bring that inflation rate down.
Okay, later today you will announce the first projects to be funded under the new Disaster Ready Fund. How will this prevent natural disasters?
Yeah, well, I guess that it won't necessarily prevent natural disasters, Pete, but it certainly will prevent some of the damage that we see each and every year from those disasters. We went to the election committing to overhaul a completely defunct fund that the Scott Morrison government had in place, and this new Disaster Ready Fund will invest up to $200 million each and every year in disaster mitigation projects. And today we're announcing the first round of projects. 187 projects in every state and territory of the country. Things like seawalls, flood levees, drainage improvements, fire communication mechanisms, better data and better flood mapping for state and territory governments. And by doing that, what we can do is try to keep more Australians safe from natural disasters and, of course, reduce the enormous bill that taxpayers face every time that we see this. What we would also like to see as a result of this, and we've had discussions with insurers, is that for these investments that we make in disaster mitigation and reducing disaster risk, that should flow through to Australians in their insurance premiums. If we can reduce the risk of disasters and reduce the risk of damage, then Australians should see the benefit of that in terms of reduced insurance premiums as well.
Okay, Murray, that announcement coming up later on today. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks, Pete.